So my name is Katie Owen and I am part of the senior leadership team at Caradog Primary School. I'm also literacy lead for our school, and I'm going to be talking you through how we've applied sentence builders and gamification in the teaching of English. So we are a town centre school with 175 children currently on roll. We have a mixed demographic for our learners, and writing is a big focus for us this year. So I'm going to talk you through what we've done with the project and the impact that it has had for us as teachers, and the impact that it has had on our learners. So the focus of this project for us is to improve sentence structure and vocabulary choices for our progression step 3 learners, particularly for year 5, because that is the class that I teach. So back last year in summer term, we identified writing as an area that we would really like to strengthen here in Caradog. When we were looking at monitoring activities and we were looking at sort of our writing through book scrutinies, etc., it was clear that it was an area that we really wanted to develop. So when we've looked at our baseline assessments for writing, this have highlighted that many pupils require stronger foundations in constructing accurate, varied sentences and in making ambitious vocabulary choices within their independent writing. So at the start of the year in September, we gave the children 2 baseline activities to write a piece of non-fiction and to write a story. And when we looked at that during our moderation activity for our staff development, it was clear that this area is something we really need to work on. There's some examples here on the slide that show, you've got one of our lower ability learners and then also one of our more able children. But as you can see, these examples show that they still need support on building accurate and varied sentences and using more ambitious vocabulary. So that was our sort of focus for this, is how we can really sort of support that through applying sentence builders and gamification. So I'm just going to talk you through now our current writing journey here in Caradog, which will give you a better overview and a better picture of how we teach writing and how these sentence builders and gamification slots in so well. So we've worked really hard on developing our writing curriculum and our writing journey. So what it looks like for us here, we've been looking really a lot on our genre toolkit and our writing progression mapping. So we've split our children into sort of early writer, developing writer and established writer, and we map the skills throughout that. All our genres start with a code task assessment. So again, that's almost like a baseline for their writing. We ensure that we use our high quality model text so children are exposed to that high quality writing. We look at activities where we're reading as a reader and then reading as a writer, and we look at sort of how that is different from one to the other. The writing process for us is very similar to the CSC Get Writing process. So we use a lot of the model, shared, guided, and then also independent writing at the end. So we use explicit toolkits that obviously pair up with the different genres that we teach, and grammar sessions that support the genres that we are teaching. We use a range of talk for writing strategies, and at the end of our genre, we will then obviously use a hot task, which is an independent writing activity where they apply the skills taught throughout the genre. So that is what our writing journey looks like. How this project fits in really, really well with our writing journey is that obviously this approach aligns with all that we do when it comes to writing. So, it's the modelling of writing for explicit demonstration of the thought processes. It's that shared writing for guided practice. And our sentence builders are used in the early stages of our writing units to strengthen grammar, vocabulary foundations, and these sort of gamified activities will act as engaging starters or as sort of short burst tasks, reinforcing learning in chunks then for our children. This approach that we have found supports consistency, reinforces their prior learning, and increases pupil independence as scaffolds are gradually reduced. What was also great for us is that we are also on a similar journey with our Welsh curriculum and have been using the sentence builders in our daily Welsh lessons. So for us, it was perfect to sort of combine the two and look at how we can use them in our daily Welsh and also how we can use them in the teaching of English in our writing lessons as well. So the next thing I'd like to chat to you about is the evidence-informed research that we've undertaken when developing our writing curriculum. So our writing journey is very much research-informed to ensure that we use strategies with proven impact to adapt our teaching and to improve outcomes for all learners. So when developing our writing curriculum, our approach and pedagogy was informed by a range of effective research into the teaching of literacy, which has been really interesting to see how this clearly links to the sentence builders and this project. So, we know that Estyn highlight the importance of explicit teaching of sentence construction, punctuation, vocabulary as key components in developing effective writing. And again, this aligns closely with our use of sentence builders to scaffold pupils' understanding of sentence structure and to support that vocabulary development. I've also gained a lot of inspiration from the approaches in the writing revolution. So it looks at 6 principles, and principle 2 looks at how sentences are building blocks of writing and how it's so important to teach the children, even our older children, our progression step 3 learners. In my example, it was our year 5 learners, but it's really important that we need to teach them explicitly how to build these sentences, that we can't just assume that they just know how to construct them. We need to really go back to the basics. It says a lot in the writing revolution that modelling those strong sentences and encouraging sort of experimentation with structure and vocabulary benefit pupils across the curriculum. By focusing on sentences, we're helping them develop clarity and confidence in any written task. So it's really, really important, and I've enjoyed seeing how that evidence has sort of reflected in our sentence builders and the activities that we've done in this project. So when we've looked at measuring impact and how we're going to measure impact for this project, so we're going to have a look at the written evidence using hot tasks at the end of the unit. So we've had a look and evaluated sort of accuracy and variety of sentences, looking at vocabulary selection, looking at sort of clarity and improvement from the baseline writing they did in September, but also their cold task at the start of the unit. So for this project, we are going to be carrying out sample group tracking. So I've chosen a group of 6 sample pupils, 2 from our higher ability learners, 2 from our middle ability learners, and 2 lower ability learners. One of those is a free school meal pupil, and they have been sort of tracked closely throughout this project. So we've looked at the progress in their cold task versus their hot task, evidence from seesaw videos of the oral rehearsals and sentence building activities, and sort of collated the writing samples then across the different units of work, just to measure that impact. So we've also sort of discussed it with the children and used learner voice as a way of measuring impact for this. We've sort of discussed it with the children and asked them whether sentence builders supported them, how it affected their motivation, and which strategies then helped them improve their writing. So throughout this project, we've also used teacher observation. So I've looked closely then at monitoring changes in accuracy during guided and independent writing, willingness to experiment with new sentence structures. That's been really fab to see actually with how children have been able to have a go and experiment with different structures and really think about the different sentence structures that they're using. The use of vocabulary from sentence builders and word banks, and then also been observing engagement within the writing sessions. So these are just a few examples now of the sentence builders that we used. So we first started off with a non-fiction unit, and that was a balanced argument unit. And these are just some of the examples, again, that we used as starters for our writing sessions, as sort of short burst writing activities. And as you can see, I'll just flick through some of the slides now and show you examples of some of them. So obviously we've got our build a discussion there. And again, we use it as a game for children. So they found it really motivating because they saw it as fun and as a game rather than actual learning, the learning of writing. Connective chain was another one there, where they had to really think about then the different connectives that they were using. We had sentence surgery, vocabulary swap game. They really, really enjoyed that. And then they've just got some examples then really of the impact that these sort of sentence builder and activities had. Sort of sentence builder in actions. And as you can see from some of the examples where they sort of tallied their scores, it definitely got out their competitive side when we sort of changed it as a game, something that they enjoyed, where they were point scoring depending on the different sentence structures used, the different vocabulary choices. But what I really loved about the sentence building activities, that it got them talking about their writing, and it got them engaging in sort of the talking and the thinking process of what they were writing, which I find often, especially in our sort of older learners, you expect them to write these paragraphs of writing, but actually getting them to sort of think about the process of writing sentence by sentence, and the value that it had. Also, it really got them thinking about and explaining the choices that they were making, which had a really positive impact on their writing. So I'm just going to show you now some examples of fiction. So we've recently actually started our fiction genre, and we've been looking at character description and how we can use these sentence builders to really, really support that. So these are just some examples of the sentence builder activities that we did, the choices that the children were given, and how they were then building these sentences together. We looked at figurative language and similes and how we could use the sentence builders through similes, metaphors, personification. What I found with fiction is that a lot of our children, even our more able learners, even our more advanced readers, struggle with fiction. They struggle with their imagination and getting ideas together and being confident enough to often say their ideas out loud. So these sentence builders and the language builders, they were perfect for allowing the children to gain confidence and share their ideas and play with the different types of structures or different vocabulary choices that they would use. And here again, some more examples then of the fiction writing in action. You can see we've worked on some vocabulary there for the character description. And as you can maybe see from the examples of the COAL task and the baseline from the previous slides, the impact on the quality and the more informed writing choices that the children have made, that you could really see that they've thought about the structure, they've thought about vocabulary, and they've really taken the time to think about the quality and have higher expectations of their writing, which, as a teacher is wonderful to see that your children really taking pride in their writing as well. So the impact this has had on our writing in my Year 5 class has been phenomenal. It really, really has. It is such a positive impact on progress, engagement, attitudes to writing, confidence. So we've looked at, obviously, how we can measure impact on this. So our writing evidence. So when we've looked at the cold and hot task, and we compare the two, it shows clear improvement in the accuracy and variety of sentence structures. There's been a noticeable enhancement in vocabulary selection, with pupils demonstrating greater precision and ambition in both fiction and non-fiction writing. When I've looked at the sample groups of the children that I selected, so tracking those sample children, um, it has highlighted the consistent progress made through all of those learners. Um, I also noticed that our lower attaining pupils in particular have benefited from the scaffold provided by the sentence builders. It's really allowed them to construct more complex and accurate sentences. The seesaw videos, evidence of capturing them, sort of working on their sentence builders, and looking at the oral rehearsal, and it's just shown that greater independence in applying those sentence structures to their activities as well. When we've done listening to learner activities and we've used our learner voice, our pupil feedback shows that the sentence builders were really valuable support tool, helping them to organise their ideas, understand how to construct effective sentences. So lots of the children reported that the gamified activities increased their motivation and their enjoyment of writing lessons. The children were able to identify specific strategies, such as the orally rehearsing sentences and the using the model structures of the sentence building that really supported them to improve their writing. So obviously, through teacher observation, I could see that the improvement in accuracy during both sort of guided and independent writing, as well as the willingness for the children to experiment with new sentence structure, and it's given them the confidence to really experiment and try the different sentence structures and have a go. The children are increasingly drawing on vocabulary from the sentence builders and word banks in their independent work as well. So overall, it's had a real positive impact, not just on the attainment of our learners and the progress of writing, but on confidence, being able to actually talk about their writing, their attitudes to writing, and their engagement levels as well. We've seen a real big impact on their writing for the better. So it's been a real wonderful project to be part of that we will be taking forward within our writing journey. And as a teacher, it's just a joy to read and to hear the children speaking so positively about their learning and about their writing. It makes writing more fun and I want to try harder. I feel more confident because I know what a good sentence looks like, and that's really important. Sometimes we forget that our older learners still need explicit teaching of what a good sentence looks like and how they can achieve that. It helps me remember what to write next. I didn't like writing before, but now I enjoy it more. So that particular learner was one of our lower ability learners who actually writing is often a struggle and is often a challenge for him. He lacks motivation. So to hear him say that he now enjoys it more through these sentence builders, is just a really lovely thing, and I know is something that we're going to be taking forward as a school. So our next steps on our writing journey then. So moving forward, obviously you can see from these slides that this project has had such a positive impact on our writing, and we're going to continue to embed and refine our approach. So we're going to develop and refine sentence builders to ensure that they are consistently used within model and shared writing to support all learners. And how this looks within our writing journey in the model and shared sort of process. Extend this approach across the whole school. So at the moment we've just trialled it in year 5, but this is something that we want to embed throughout the whole school for our younger learners as well. We're going to continue regular moderation of writing, comparing outcomes across classes to ensure consistency and track progress over time. Explore the use of sentence builders during our independent answer V time. So throughout our school, all our learners engage in something called answer V time, which is their independent learning time. So it'll be really interesting to see how we can use these sentence builders to support them doing their answer V, and looking at how we can do that and strengthen their cross-curricular writing. So using sentence builders to support literacy across the curriculum and develop transferable writing skills. This project has been so worthwhile, and it's something that we are going to be taking on our writing journey in Caradog with us. Diolch, thank you so much for listening, and hopefully this has been a really lovely insight and a real positive example on sentence builders and gamification and how we can make a real positive impact in the classroom. Diolch.